What's up, founders and investors? Welcome back to Next Round Ready. I'm your host, Chris. Today we have special guest Marlon Evans. Marlon, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Looking forward to it.
My favorite question to always kick things off is what got you to this point of investing? What was your journey like?
Well, I wish it was a linear path, and if we had more like in an hour or so to talk it through, because I've kind of bounced around, but landed here, and I've really enjoyed it. I actually got my career started in the nonprofit sector, if you can call Stanford a nonprofit. I worked there for some time, but went to the Knowledge is Power program, KIPP, which is a network of charter schools, and led partnerships there as we were opening up schools across the country. Got a passion for education reform during that time. I thought about launching my own nonprofit, but realized there was a lot of great activity already going on, like the KIPPs of the world. So I actually went and ran Ronnie Lott's foundation, the Hall of Famer for the Niners, All Stars Helping
Really?
Kids. And that was a blast. Got to work with Ronnie and really help impact the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I live, providing funding to great organizations that were on the front lines helping kids. So that was a lot of fun. Realized that I was quickly becoming the nonprofit guy, which isn't a bad thing, but wanted to see what the corporate world was like. So I went over to HP and helped within their social innovation group. So I was still doing impact, just in a different venue. I really enjoyed that time, really enjoyed kind of thinking about how technology could improve people's lives, and realized that while I enjoyed my time at HP, it was a 300,000 person company. I kind of liked the feeling that I had when it was just a handful of us trying to make things happen on the ground. Actually got decided to go the more kind of startup, venture route, and went to run a company called Global Silicon Valley Labs, which at the time was kind of a WeWork plus model where we were selling space to startups and corporate innovation and venture folks, kind of all under one roof, helping to facilitate kind of innovation through that model. We were based in the Bay Area, started opening up sites across the country and the globe. Realized that I wasn't a real estate arbitrage guy. That wasn't me. So decided to really kind of focus on what I enjoyed most about that job, which was hanging out with the startups and helping their businesses grow, which is how I landed at NextCubed, which is where I am now in 2018. It's a venture accelerator, very similar to a Techstars and a Y Combinator, where we invest at that pre-seed stage, provide some acceleration programming, and help the company scale.
Man, that sounds like a lifetime of pivots, just constantly
Yeah.
changing directions. When you get to those phases after a couple years of what you're doing and you realize you have to pivot, what's the thought process like there?
Yeah, for me, it's always like, how can I have an even greater impact than, in my current role or in my previous role? So, kind of looking around and saying, hey, I've learned what I can from this role. I recognize that it's not something that I necessarily want to do 100% of the time, but there are aspects of it that I enjoy. How can I then apply that to whatever the next role might be? So again, no master plan other than trying to figure out how I'm wired, what type of value can I bring to a particular opportunity, and then getting after it.
I like that. Not really sitting and thinking about it too much, kind of being strategic a little bit, but really more so going after it. I find that people who work in a startup world have to have that mentality of always moving, always evolving, something to always like look forward to. It's this weird pattern I see with founders and investors where there's always some next big thing. I think it's really healthy to live that way because it's that you just got to have something that's getting you out of bed. When you choose the entrepreneur path, you're kind of choosing the abnormal lifestyle compared to the person that's trying to just work a job or have a basic career for the next 20 or 30 years. Entrepreneurs are like the insane people, the crazy people that just need that fuel. We need the extra push.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I have a athletic background, played college football, and grew up playing sports, and I think it's that mentality. Like you can always get better. There's always something you could be doing. Your competition is you don't ever get outworked by your competition. It's like that same mindset you kind of bring to your work. You're never satisfied, which can be good, but also can be challenging at times. And so we also encourage all of our founders, make sure you're checking in on yourself, you're taking care of your health, and you're not grinding yourself to a point where you're not able to function at the level that team needs you to be at.
100%, man. So let's get into some of the founders that you like to work with. Can you describe the green flags that you look for in founders? Like when you meet this founder, is it something that they say or do, how they present themselves that makes them immediately stand out to you?
Yeah. I mean, we always say, hey, all of our founders need to be just subject matter experts in whatever field that they're endeavoring to innovate within and evolve. And so they really need to know their stuff. But at the same token, they have to know what they don't know and be willing to be coachable and learn. So a green flag is just that person who's just, constantly, just like we were talking about earlier, just a passion for the problem that they're trying to solve versus their particular solution.
Hmm.
Be married to the problem, not to the solution. Like what you think now may change over time, which is okay if you can keep that kind of North Star. And so those are all things that we really appreciate, that they're coachable, really understand their business, have a unique perspective on how things can evolve in that particular industry or sector, and are willing to put in the cycles to get there.
So I got a question on that. Because when you say that they have to be, because my mindset on it is marry the problem and date the solution. Like
Mm.
you want to marry the problem and stick to that, and that's what you mainly focus on. And you're just dating a solution, and that's figuring it out which one works. You test in the market. That's all that dating is, right? So, what's a way that founders can really show that? Because from my perspective, I tell founders to make a lot of content. Like getting on camera like this for me is just natural. It's super easy. It's 10 years in, it's nothing. It's the easiest thing in the world for me. But how would you suggest a founder display to investors that they're really, really focused on the problem and kind of just dating a solution?
I mean, it's hard. I don't think there's one way of doing it. I do agree, like content, thought leadership, whether it's, participating on panels or writing up, op-eds or whatever the case may be, but it's you're a person that people are going to really understand what's happening on the ground in whatever field that might be. And part of that is being close to the ground. And so being close to your customers, hearing from them, back to this idea that you have a unique insight that others haven't uncovered. You can only do that if you're very close to the problem that your customers are facing. So the more I hear from founders saying, yeah, we, you know, using whole numbers to make it easy, we have 100 customers, right now. I just spoke to 50% of them, and this is what I heard. And then they come back to me a couple months later, and as a result of what we've heard, this is how we've kind of changed things. Like that ability to listen and apply what you're learning to your business, I think is such a strong characteristic for great founders.
So it sounds like thought leadership matters a lot to you as an investor. I think public speaking might be one of those things that could be huge for some founders. Like maybe not chasing every event or the big industry events like TechCrunch or South by Southwest, but I think what could be good for a lot of founders is just getting on stage at some of the smaller events and conferences in their particular industries. Because think about, I mean, the kind of connections you can get, that spotlight, it's something you really can't even buy. Like having pictures of you on stage at a fireside chat with three other experts in the industry, it's honestly priceless. You can't buy that. Like you can go make an AI version now, but it just it doesn't compare, to that kind of brand authority that you build. I'm shocked more founders don't take that approach of like prioritizing public speaking.
Yeah, I think it's hard, and it may, for many of them, it might not be their comfort zone. And we always encourage our founders to kind of push outside of their comfort level at times, and that could be, the case for some. But I agree with you, just the connections that you can make, the fact that as a startup, you're trying to get that validation in the market, and sometimes that's by, leaning on others. So to your point, if you're standing next to a Fortune 100, CTO talking about their business just by association, now when you're talking to prospective customers, you can say that's the kind of world that you live in, even if you don't have the track record at that point to support it. So, yeah, I think it's one of the things that founders could do more of is the networking and kind of getting plugged into some of these opportunities that time is so scarce that you're thinking, gosh, um, how is this one activity going to lead towards moving my business along? You may not see it right away. You may not
Mm.
see those dollars come in the next day or that customer. And so you feel like it's somewhat of a waste of time, but it is planting seeds to get you to where you need to be down the road.
That's a good point because that's another value add I would say is you might even get customers at some of these events. You can just run into them there because I mean, again, if you're in your industry, you're probably going to run into some prospects at some of these events. And if they've just seen you get off stage, you'll have five or six people waiting to talk to you. I've done this before in other spaces myself, so I know how that part works and I've done it. It's kind of mind blowing how much authority you get like immediately once they see you up there with the microphone in your hand. It's like, wait a minute, like, oh, you're one of those people that's on stage talking. You're like, it's a big separator and it's kind of instant. So let's talk about some of the red flags. This is always my favorite part because I like to hear what investors don't like because I think this really calls out the founders that are listening. What's some of those glaring red flags that you might see in a founder that just immediately turn you away from them?
Yeah, and the first one, and it's likely not going to be helping these founders, is because they're probably not listening, and that is a big red flag. It's clear, back to this. Yes, we want you to have a really good handle of your subject matter, but you have to be able to take kind of feedback, and whether it's something that you feel like 100% confident in, you still need to be able to hear the other side. Not saying that you go that way or you take that person's advice, but you need to be able to hear them. And oftentimes you can sense almost in when companies are pitching, like even before you get the question out, they're trying to answer it. Like they're not, it's wanting to show how much they know, almost sometimes undercuts them in the
Mm.
process because they're really not hearing you. They're a couple steps ahead of you, which in some circles may work. But I think for most investors, again, not that we're saying that we know more about your business than you, but you need to be able to kind of take feedback as you're a leader of an organization and hear things that you may not either agree with and still be able to kind of engage with that person. So I would say that's a red flag just on just the listening,
Mm.
skills. Other is just like a certainty, which is part of this, journey for founders. I think the certain thing you always will want to display is that you're always learning, you're always evolving, and you're going to find a way to make, this happen. If there's like that kind of unwillingness to kind of put yourself out there and try, and you're always kind of tinkering, behind the scenes because you
Yeah.
don't want to get that kind of negative,
That are afraid to
reaction.
launch, the founders that are
Yes.
afraid to launch. Yeah, yeah, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Who just want to keep building and add another feature and add this and then tweak that, and they never put anything out. It's like, come on, man, what are we
Yes.
doing?
Exactly. And so that that fear, there's a lot of things that's probably baked and packed into that and different reasons for it, but um times you just got to get it out there and learn by doing. So I would say the listening, the reluctance to put something out into market, and then your kind of ability we were talking about before from a networking perspective to rally people around what you're doing. Like I think that's the key mark of any leader. And while solo founders, and in particular in the age of AI and ability to kind of get things done without a lot of people is where it's going, but that's not to, I think, minimize from the fact that ultimately you're going to need to be able to get customers to sign on to what you're doing. You're going to need to be able to get your own staff and employees. You need to get investors on board. And if you've been at it and there's nobody else in your ecosystem that you can point to that's also signed on in some form, and signing on could be it's a customer, they're on your wait list or what have you, or it's you have an advisory board, just something that's saying other humans out there in the world have raised their hand and said, I believe in Chris, I believe in what he's doing, and I'm supporting it. If that's not there, that's a bit of a red flag.
That makes so much sense because as a founder, I think you're kind of like choosing the path to be an outlier. And what works for the best founders is have other people that agree with what they're doing and they kind of leave the normal lifestyle to go and work with the founder. Like, and if you can
Mm,
get people to do that, the higher quality people, more of the smart people, that kind of signals to everybody else, like, man, this guy must know what he's doing. And I think that's why hiring the team is so important to a lot of investors. I hear that one all the time because it makes sense. If you can get this guy to leave that company, you get her to leave that company, and you got five amazing people to leave their jobs to work with you on a company that isn't super profitable yet, that says a lot about you as an individual for sure.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I like the way you put it. It's signaling because, in particular, where we invest at that early stage, there's not a huge track record to look at. This may be a serial founder. They may have done it in the past, so you can look at that. But for the particular business, they're just getting off of the ground. So what are some of the signals you're looking for? And that's to me is a key one. What other humans can you rally around your vision who believe in it as much as you do? That's a that's an area where I think sometimes founders don't realize how important that is.
So, as a pre-seed investor in their early stages, how do you view traction?
This is a great question. I think it can come in many forms. We just talked about some. I would say traction, your ability to recruit other folks. That's showing traction. It may not show up in your P&L, but it's certainly important. Obviously, if you're in revenue, that's helpful. It can be traction related to your product, like how far along, in what time, what resources did you need to get to this certain point is important. But once we start getting into more kind of the financial metrics, I think it's then based on, the business that they're in. Is it kind of more direct to consumer? Is it more enterprise? What are the sales cycles? Again, have they figured out some sort of unique approach to their business? So we're less concerned with kind of where they are now and more kind of looking at least at the stage that we're investing, have they created kind of repeatable processes to get them to a place where they can grow and scale their business? And that's what we try to help bridge that gap for them.
Yeah, I get that. I'm trying to tell founders that are really in that pre-seed stage to not focus on just the numbers so much because it's like if they're a pre-seed investor, they should know that you aren't going to have a ton of cash in the bank. Like that's just the truth. Like if you have a wait list, if you have pipelines, if you have partnerships, all of those speak volumes over, well, we have 8 customers. It's like, it'd be better if you can say we have these pipelines set up to get 800 customers. That just, in comparison, I think that would be a lot better. But I do run into some pre-seed investors who want a lot of numbers in the traction in this early phase in terms of traction. They want like X amount MRR. And it's like, that doesn't really fit the pre-seed narrative from my perspective. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. And I think it's because the larger investors, some of them are starting to come downstream and bringing
Mm.
that same kind of mentality and approach to pre-seed investing. And frankly, the market is such as where they can start, demanding some of those numbers and what used to be at that Series A expectation in terms of milestones gets pushed down to seed and seed out to pre-seed. And so it is, again, this is a really hard job being an entrepreneur and getting something off the ground because the expectations, the goalposts are constantly moving, on founders. And that's one thing that we try to not to do as founders, investors is say, hey, put certain milestones and then it's, kind of milestone based investing. And then we'll give you another tranche of funding at that pre-seed level because typically what happens is that those goalposts get moved. You're like, wait a second, I hit those marks, and so we have a different approach to it. But nevertheless, I agree. Like it's not everything isn't baked into MRR. What we really want to see is like growth, ability to scale. Are you bringing in the right team? Do you have partners? Do you have pipeline? Do you have a process to get somebody through the pipeline and
Mm.
close? Like all of those kind of more tactical things is what we're looking for.
Man, so you guys must spend a ton of time analyzing the business models because I imagine that's like the biggest thing to look at in a pre-seed phase of just understanding how this founder can make money with this idea. Because I see companies all the time now, whether it's AI agents or some AI automation, sometimes it's an AI layer on top of things, and it's a lot of different options, specifically in AI. But I find that a lot of the AI companies are struggling to set up the right business models because it's so fast and it's changing so quick. Within a week, everything just shifts. It's happening really fast. It's hard to keep up with it, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, how people are paying for things, both domestically and internationally. I mean, we have some of our companies who majority of their customers are outside of the US. And so a subscription model is somewhat foreign to them. They're used to more kind of pay for usage, which is where I think we're going with AI, anyways. And so like that's a different mindset change. But for us, we get to cheat, if you will, because we make that initial investment after doing our due diligence, but then we get 4 months with the founders where we're kind of embedded with that, company during that time. And we have advisors and stuff that are working with the founders. So we get to know them really, really well during that time. And our goal is just to set them up for success so that they can go out and raise that seed round. But yeah, it's not it's not easy because you don't have a long track record to look at in order to kind of try to figure out what makes the right investment.
Man, I agree that it's tough. And I started looking at more companies myself the past 3 to 6 months. I'm up to like 20 companies a week where just founders are reaching out because of the show. I'm putting out more content. I'm going to events and everything. I look at more companies now than I ever have. And I used to say when I was younger, like when I was in high school, my first business, not even high school, honestly, middle school, I would sell candy in my bag at school. So I would get the food stamps and buy the food and then sell candy. And I was like, man, I love business. And now, like 30 years later, I'm realizing how many layers of business I didn't really even grasp just yet. Like to still be learning now, it's fun. I love being in this space because I get to learn and connect with so many different people. And with AI now, it's like every single day there's something new to just discover. So it is challenging, but man, I genuinely love it. Like it's all every day is exciting for me no matter what I'm doing or what's going on. Cuz I get to interview people like you. Like it's fun. Like this is amazing.
Nah, I appreciate you making the time and enjoy the conversation.